To recap everything that happened on that Tuesday and, talk a little bit about why it happened. Typically in the summertime, you don't get a lot of tornadoes, but we saw quite a number of them during that day on Tuesday, thanks to the tropical system that was Fred. It was still a tropical depression that moved through, and it added so much spin to the atmosphere that every single storm on that day was twisting and turning. So there was a tornado warning for just about every single county in our area. It was an incredibly busy day for us. I'm gonna let a few of you hop on. I'm also gonna be monitoring things here on my own phone. I want you to tell me about what your experience was like, because we may look back at this as one of those days. Whoops, excuse me. Let me get this muted. But that way I can kind of watch along and get comments in real time from you guys. But again, this may be one of those days you look back on and remember. I mean, it was an incredibly anxiety-inducing day for a lot of us here at the station. We were actually in a couple of tornado warnings, and all of our employees had to seek shelter, and that's not something that happens all the time around here. There were no confirmed tornadoes around Greenville, but we did have some just south around Fountain Inn. And it's not all about the tornadoes. We're also going to talk about the flooding too. I'm actually going to start with that, mainly because it's so fresh on my mind. I was just in Haywood County on Friday, and that was an emotional experience. It was devastating to see everything that those people have gone through up there. Interviewed a business owner, and it was just really, really difficult to hear about what everyone has had to deal with, especially that lived along the Pigeon River. Now, to give you a little bit of perspective, flood stage for the Pigeon River is 10 feet. Major flood stage is between 18 and 19 feet, and it got above major flood stage. I believe it was 19.8. I may be off by just a tenth of a foot there, but it was incredibly high, to the point where they haven't seen anything like this since Ivan moved through. Ivan and Francis back in 2004. So that was a pretty significant situation. I'm going to set this down, and then I'll check back in with you guys on your comments in just a moment. But again, we'd just really like to hear what your experience was like if you were up in the mountains, dealt with the flooding, or if you were down in the upstate and dealt with all of the tornadoes. So, official tornadoes, we had 7 across the upstate. 5 of them were in the heart of the upstate, and a couple of them were on the fringe of our area. One in Rabun County, Georgia, one in Newberry County, and then we had a couple around Fountain Inn, and I'm going to show you a map of that here in just a second. Now, this is not the record. You'd almost think that a day like that, we had 36 tornado warnings that came out of GSP. You'd think that would set some kind of record, but it's actually, the record is actually from April of 2020 with 9 tornadoes. So not too far off of a daily record for tornado touchdowns across our area. And there's actually no record kept when it comes to the number of tornado warnings issued in a day. But I was talking to Tricia Palmer with National Weather Service, and she says that they're kind of looking into that, because this potentially could have been the most that they've ever issued. An incredibly busy day. And like a lot of us at Fox were saying, it just seemed like every time you look down at your phone, a new tornado warning was being issued. And I can attest to that, since we were on the air with all of it. And it seemed like we couldn't talk about one storm long enough until a new warning would get issued. So here's a look at where these tornadoes were located. There's a kind of cluster here that happened from Malden over toward Fountain Inn. And then we had the one that occurred near Sandy Springs, and then up towards 6 Miles. So let's zoom in. We'll talk about each of these. The 2 that happened around Fountain Inn, the 2 separate touchdowns, one was an EF0, but one was an EF1, which that can certainly happen with tropical systems, but that's a pretty strong tornado for a typical tropical system. A lot of times with tropical systems, you don't get the higher end tornadoes. These are quick spin ups, and many of you probably saw the damage with this. It wouldn't be that far. It's like they come, they touch down, but they can't last all that long. That's the one good thing about tropical tornadoes, is that they're not, long lived. But 90-mile-per-hour winds there near 385. And then you zoom on up to Malden. This one was an EF1 tornado with 90-mile-per-hour winds, and this is the one that we were just inundated with reports of damage off Miller Road, off places that many of you who live around Greenville probably travel around, and certainly those of you who live in Malden. So that was another one that we tracked throughout the day. So there are 3 of those. And then we head on down to Anderson, where we had winds at 85 miles per hour. This was near Pendleton, and it was close to I-85 as well. and it ended up heading up toward Pickens County. And we ended up with another touchdown of a tornado that was near Lake Keowee, actually, just to the west of 6 Mile, really close to the Oconee Pickens border there. So that was kind of a recap of the ones that happened in our immediate area. But, you know, during the month of August, you don't think of that as big time tornado outbreak season. We usually see that kind of thing in April, and that's what we had April of 2020. This past April and May were pretty busy when it came to that as well. And I can actually give you an idea of tornadoes by month. And you can really see a spike here, April into May. This is the average. And that's clearly when the storm chasers are out in Oklahoma or Alabama, and when we're most on guard when it comes to severe weather. And then there's a pretty sharp drop off as you go into the summer months. The reason for this is that the jet stream becomes less active. The jet stream retreats to the north, and that's what helps to really get severe weather going. But the one caveat, we get tropical systems in the summertime. So that's why the numbers don't go down to zero, they just get reduced a good bit. If we're going to see a tornado in July or August, there is a high likelihood that it's going to come from a tropical system. It's very difficult to get a tornado under circumstances that aren't a tropical situation. So that's why when we were getting together as a team before all this happened, we knew we had to have the Weather Center double staffed all day Tuesday. Even though we weren't in an insanely high risk for tornadoes at the moment, but knowing how hot it was going to get that day, and we had the center of circulation of Fred's coming so close, that's always a tip-off that there could be some serious issues. You know, you could have a lot of rotation in the atmosphere and certainly a lot of problems when it comes to tornadoes. So that was a big issue. I want to go through this and then we'll go through some of your comments too. But I think that it's important in the summertime to review this stuff with your kids, especially if you may have gone through having to take shelter this past August 17th, and maybe you had to refresh yourself on exactly what to do. I feel like in the spring, we do severe weather awareness, we're all ready, but in the summertime, you think, okay, well, there'll be a few thunderstorms, but we don't get tornadoes. We certainly did. So you want to make sure you get to the lowest floor of your home, away from windows, hallway, bathroom, or a closet. Those are good places to go. You can even put a bicycle helmet on the kids if you want to be extra safe. A lot of folks did that back with the Alabama tornado outbreaks, and it saved lives. You want to protect your head. So again, that's a good way to do it. And then abandoned mobile homes. You know, mobile homes, we like to say if there's a tornado watch out, if a watch gets issued, that's the time to get out of a mobile home. You don't want to have to try to get out right when a warning is issued and you only have seconds or minutes to spare. So that's something to keep in mind. If you do live in a mobile home park, know where your safe place is located. And a quick review of that, of the watch versus warning. A watch is when conditions are favorable for tornadoes, and a warning is when they are happening. So a watch is when you need to make your plan. And you know, we did get a tornado watch before all of those tornadoes happened, but it was just a few minutes before the first warning got issued. So sometimes the watch can actually come out pretty quickly compared to when the warnings get issued. So you need to have that plan ready. And then of course, hurricane season continues. We've gone through Anna, Bill, and Claudette, Danny, Elsa, which several of these affected our area, including Elsa, Fred, Grace, and Henri. So next on the list will be Ida, and then we've got Julian and Kate and Larry. So it'll at least be easy to pronounce, because sometimes it gets a little, that Henri thing, I thought it was Henry at first, and then it ended up being pronounced that way. So anyway, Alex is here, who is our creative services, so she'll let me know if there are any specific questions. I'm having some trouble kind of connecting with all of this, but
someone did mention that they do remember Andrew. It was 29 years ago. It feels like it was yesterday.
Oh yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Ashley said that she just bought a bicycle helmet for herself in case there's another outbreak.
Okay, so that's good. And we say about the kids, but for yourself as well. I think we all tend to think about our kids first, but always important to protect yourself. And again, I know it was such a scary day across our area. I mean, you know, we all good friend Alex, who's off camera, who's reading me these comments, she's been personally impacted by tornadoes. This area just does, think of the Carolinas, especially the Western Carolinas, as being a little piece of Tornado Alley. But in the last few years, it's become very, very active here, from tropical systems in the summer to those, spring season storms that we often get. So it can be pretty bad for sure. But yeah, she's monitoring the comments right now, and we also want to get ideas from you about what you want to see in World of Weather. We thought that it would be kind of appropriate to talk about what happened this past week, but we're going to be looking ahead as well. We'll be talking about hurricane season, but we want to hear about topics that mean something to you as well. So let us know. You can always email us, weather@foxcarolina.com, and let us know what you want to hear about, what you want explained. We did some weather experiments a couple weeks ago, and we'll probably do another round of those at some point during the school year, because there's all sorts of good ones, but always cloud in the bottle is always the big hit. But anyway, so if you have any more additional questions, put them in the comments, and I'll be back on there here shortly and can go in and answer as many as possible. But just kind of wanted to go through everything that happened on August 17th, which again will end up being one of the top busiest days in my career. Will probably be a day that many of us remember for a long, long time. And when you have a tornado outbreak that rivals the most tornadoes ever in our area, that's certainly something that warrants revisiting and learning lessons from as well. So. Oh yeah, and also you want to download the app too. That was a big thing, that all throughout that coverage, we were sending those updates to your app. We were streaming coverage. So if you get in a situation where you and your kids have to get into the closet, you can't hear the television, or you lose power. Great point. If your phone's charged up and you've got cell service, which usually that doesn't go down unless things really, really get bad, you can click on our app and check us out. We'll have the live stream going, and you can watch me and Bob, Kylie, Nicole talking about any kind of severe weather that's heading your way. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll continue to bring you more World of Weather segments over the next few weeks.